Terry McAuliffe. He's an establishment toad who is once again running for governor of Virginia, but he's definitely not a Virginius when it comes to public schools. When he was governor the first time around, he vetoed a series of education bills, including a school choice bill that would have allowed parents to use state money for private or home schooling. Sounds mighty nice, huh? Yeah. But school choice is a dirty word to the Democrat elite, who are generously funded by corrupt teachers unions who are hell-bent on keeping parents out of classroom decisions, like slick-haired hypocrite Gavin Newsom. McAuliffe, he doesn't send his silver spoon spawn to those filthy public veal pens. No, back in 2009, his four progeny attended a $30,000 a year country club. Terry? They should call him Tony. And of course, this graceless hack is handsomely funded by teachers unions who have given him almost $700,000 in donations to date. Unions want parents wholly divorced from their cartels. So it was no surprise last night during a gubernatorial debate when McAuliffe told his Republican rival this.
I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decision. So, yeah, I stopped the bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. Good.
You know what? I think parents should have a very active role in what their kids are learning, because they care most about outcomes, something public schools have all but abandoned in the wake of the pandemic, which has academically failed forgotten learners. Unions don't care about learning. They want money and power and control. Those uppity parents stand in the way of unaccountable cash grabs and unchecked propagandizing. If Terry McAuliffe and Gavin Newsom had such great faith in their crumbling public schools, why won't they send their kids there? It's not just Republicans and libertarians who, during the pandemic, saw behind the curtain and were sickened by the laziness and inefficiency of the one-size-fits-all education system in this country. Democrats who support school choice now sits at 70% as of June 2021. That is an 11-point bump during the pandemic. Progressives can flap their claptraps about equity and oppression, but at the end of the day, all parents want is what is best for their kids, a seat at the table and a voice and choice where their kids get to sit. And that's the memo. A new study shows the number of kids who enrolled in charter schools jumped more than 7% since the pandemic started, and the proof is in the pudding. School choice is the wave of the future, so why do politicians want to get in the way of the future? Here with me now, National Director of Research at the American Federation of Children, it is Corey DeAngelis. Welcome back, Corey.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, I don't know who Terry McAuliffe was appealing to last night, saying that he wants to keep parents out of school and out of the process, especially when so many of them were instrumental in the process, a lot of them for the first time during the pandemic.
Yeah, he was signaling to the teachers unions that support his campaign, but that really alienates a lot of parents that are supporting school choice more than ever. And look, the reality is that a lot of us know already that parents know and care more about their children's educations than bureaucrats sitting in offices hundreds of miles away. And this is this is a huge gaffe for McAuliffe, because it was found out not too long ago that he's a school choice hypocrite. Like you said, he sent his kids to private school, but then fights against school choice for others, which is horrible news when you see the latest polling that came out on this just this morning at Real Clear Opinion Research, nationwide polling finding that voters overwhelmingly reject elected officials that are school choice hypocrites, those that exercise school choice for their own kids and then oppose it for others. 62% of respondents said that they'd be less likely to support a candidate if they were a school choice hypocrite. Only 9% said the opposite, and about 20% said that it didn't really have an effect. But those are huge numbers, and it doesn't look good in a tight race like we're seeing in Virginia for McAuliffe. And
tell me about some of the parents who are choosing homeschooling, which has doubled since the pandemic. The number of kids who are being homeschooled went from 2.6 million to over 5 million now. And, you know, like I just said, there's been a 7% jump in kids going to private schools and charter schools. So tell me about some of these families, because, you know, there are people say, oh, these are just rich white people. Is that true? Because that sounds kind of racist.
It's families from all types of political backgrounds. In fact, if you look at the Census Bureau data from the American Pulse survey, the latest numbers show that the biggest jumps in the number of families that are homeschooling were among Black American families, which include about 16% of their households homeschooling at least one child in the household. So it's from all different types of backgrounds. Surges in support for school choice are among all different types of backgrounds, especially for Democrats and people who had their kids in the public school system. COVID really showed why we need educational freedom to have the money follow the child. And like you said, charter schools are seeing tons of new students, whereas the government schools lost about 1.5 million children last year. Families are voting with their feet to the types of educations that work best for them. And look, the way that we can get more of these types of opportunities to more families is to fund the students directly. In Virginia, with this race that we're looking at, they spend at least $13,000, $14,000 per child per year in the government school system. That money should follow the child to wherever they're getting an education. That would allow more families, not just McAuliffe, to afford to send their kids to private schools. And that would really lead to more equity in society. School choice is an equalizer in that way. Funding students directly allows more families to access educational opportunities. And look, education funding is meant for educating children. It should follow them to wherever they're getting an education.
And where they're getting the best
education.
education.
Any particular institution.
No, absolutely not. And if you're worried about where Americans stand in the global climate in terms of math and science, in terms of education, and you want to do better by our kids, then vote for people who are going to allow parents to make those decisions once and for all. Corey DeAngelis, thank you so much.